Hey there fellow Planeswalkers, it's Steve for Collector Mania, and do I have some exciting news for you guys today. So yesterday, probably by the time this video gets out, we got a spoiler for a new commander from Dominaria. So it's Tatyova, Benthic Druid. So we've got a 3-colorless green-blue Merfolk Druid 3/3 legendary creature, of course, that says whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you may gain 1 life and draw a card. So, extremely powerful. It's rewarding you for doing essentially what you want to do in any commander game, which is play lands, and rewarding you in a huge way. Gaining life and drawing cards is definitely something that we want to do, more so on the draw cards side. So with that in mind, I built the deck very much around landfall and then kind of like a token sub-theme. So there's a little bit of like, of course with like Avengers, Zendikar, and stuff like that. So you'll kind of see that as we break into it here. So first up, we've got creatures. We've got Sylvan Safekeeper, so a green 1/1 human wizard. If you haven't played with this guy, he's absolutely amazing. Basically, you just sacrifice a land to give one of your other creatures Shroud until the end of turn. So this actually works really well as an engine in our deck because we've got a little bit of recursion, like land recursion going on. Plus, we'll be playing so many lands, most likely, that we won't miss a few. So then we've got a Coiling Oracle. Of course, a great addition in a deck like this. So a green and a blue 1/1. Essentially, when he enters the battlefield, you look at the top card of your library. If it's a land, it comes into play. If not, it goes to your hand. So, pretty good. Then we've got a Lotus Cobra. So just think about the interaction here. If these two are on the battlefield at the same time, you essentially play a land, get a mana of any color, draw a card, and gain a life. So, I mean, just off of playing a land, you've triggered 3 things already. Amazing. And then we've got a way to go grab lands, Sakura Tribe Elder. Of course, this is one of the staple green ramp spells that pretty much any green deck should be running. And then Thrasios, Triton Hero. So, this used to be my go-to green-blue commander. I think he probably still is, but inside this deck, he's actually pretty powerful. I mean, if you think about it, you pay for Scry 1. If you reveal a land, you can put it on, or leave it on top, then have it come to play tapped, draw a card, gain a life, or even just draw a card. So, really, really powerful either way. Amazing card still. And of course, we got Azusa, Lost But Seeking. So, think about playing 2 lands a turn, drawing 2 cards, and gaining 2 life. I mean, and essentially you're going to draw yourself into more lands and more ways to draw more cards. I mean, really, I think we're going to have to worry about milling ourselves out here. Burnished Heart, so once again, pay 3 sacrifices, get 2 basic lands into play, draw 2 cards, gain 2 life. Wow. And then we've got Courser of Kruphix, so once again, think about the synergy between these 2 cards. I mean, you reveal the top card of your library for the land, you can play it. Now you gain 2 life and draw a card every time a land comes into play, so yeah, just amazing. Then Eternal Witness, of course, we want a little bit of recursion and some ways to get stuff from our graveyard. Then we got Kefnet the Mindful. So I know this isn't the most popular card. I actually kind of like it. I mean, 2 colorless and a blue for a 5/5 flying indestructible in a deck that we're most likely going to draw a ton of cards with. But also, what I was really looking at here is the activated ability. So, 3 colorless and a blue, draw a card, then you may return a land you control to its owner's hand. So, eventually we're going to run into a point where we're not going to have a whole lot of lands left in our deck. So, we want ways to maybe put lands from the battlefield back into our hand to play again. So, this is definitely a very good way to do that. Drawing a card and returning a land, pretty good. Then we've got Nissa Vastwood Seer, of course one of my favorite cards. So 2 colorless and a green, Elf Scout, 2/2. When she enters the battlefield, you search your library for a forest, essentially, put it in your hand, and then if you play 7 lands, you can transform her. When she flips over, she turns into Nissa Sage Animist, so 3 loyalty Planeswalker. +1 is reveal the top card of your library. If it's a land card, put it on the battlefield, so obvious synergy there, otherwise put it into your hand. And then our -2 is create a legendary 4/4 green elemental creature token named Dashai. So works right into our token strategy. And then -7 untap up to 6 target lands. They become 6/6 elemental creatures. They're still lands. So overall, all abilities we really want to do. +1 is definitely mostly what we want to do, but just a good planeswalker. Then we've got Raminap Excavator. So 2 colors and a green. You may play land cards from your graveyard. Not enough said there, really. Then we've got Tireless Tracker, so 2 colors and a green. Whenever land enters battlefield under your control, investigate, so you get a clue token. Then whenever you sacrifice a clue, put a +1/+1 counter on Tireless Tracker. So there is a doubling season in here, of course, so with things like that, doubling up on clue tokens, drawing extra cards, that's basically all this deck is trying to do, draw cards and play lands. And then we've got a Wayward Sword Tooth, kind of our double up on Azusa, so 2 colors and a green. It's got Ascend, so City's Blessing here. You may play an additional land on each of your turns, so that's really powerful. And then, of course, if you have the City's Blessing, it can attack or block, and it's 5/5 for 3. Then, of course, Wood Elves. And Solemn Simulacrum. I mean, these are just auto-includes. And then we've got a Wolfbriar Elemental, so 2 colors, 2 green. I know Eric absolutely loves this card. I haven't really gotten a chance to play with it as much as he has, but I'm pretty sure it'll work for our strategy here. So it's got multi-kicker, so you can pay as many green as you can into it. When Wolfbriar Elemental enters the battlefield, create a 2/2 wolf creature token for each time it was kicked. So, considering that we'll have a ton of mana with this deck, that could be really powerful. I mean, you can make up to, you know, 1,000,000 wolves, basically, you know, depending on what's going on, so powerful. And then we've got Krufix, God of the Horizons. I just figured with the amount of cards that we're going to be drawing, it might be good to have a few effects that say you have no maximum hand size. Plus, Krufix is just a good overall, like, enchantment. Not even, like, getting to his creature side, but just a good enchantment. I mean, being able to tap your mana at the end of the upkeep, or end step before yours, and then just make a bunch of floating colorless mana for whenever you want to use it is extremely powerful. Then we've got a Moloko, the Clouded Mirror. So 4 colors and a blue legendary creature, Moonfolk Wizard, 2/4 flying. Return a land you control to its owner's hand. Put a 1/1 blue illusion creature token with flying onto the battlefield. So kind of going into that token engine once again. This guy actually really helps us out because once again it puts a land back into our hand to play again, and creates token and draws a card. It's basically everything we want it to be. And we've got a Mycoloth. So early game, you just get out a few of those smaller tokens, and then you just devour a bunch of them with this guy, and then every upkeep, essentially, you're grabbing, you know, 10 tokens or something ridiculous like that. Could be really overwhelming for your opponents. I've got Tendershoot Dryad. Speaking of a bunch of little tokens, this card is absolutely amazing. So 4 colors and a green. It's got Ascend, so City's Blessing again at the beginning of each upkeep. Create a 1/1 green Saproling creature token, so really powerful there. Then if you have the City's Blessing, Saprolings you control get +2/+2, so really powerful. Can kind of lean itself into like an overrun type effect. And I've got Titania, Protector of Agroth, so 3 colors, 2 green. When she enters the battlefield, return target land from your graveyard to the battlefield. When the land you control is put into graveyard from the battlefield, create a 5/3 green elemental creature token. So, as you can probably guess, we're running as many fetch lands as we possibly can, so this card actually works really well, especially with something like Sylvan Safekeeper that we saw at the start of this deck, and like Ramadup Excavator and stuff like that, so pretty cool card. And then we've got a new card, so Multani Yavamaya's Avatar, wow. So 4 colors, 2 green, it's got Reach and Trample. It gets +1/+1 for each land you control, or you control in each land in your graveyard, so either way, it's buffing this card, and it's got the ability that we really like, and that's a colorless and a green. Return 2 lands you control to their owner's hand. Return Multani from your graveyard to your hand. So, a way to recur this potentially massive creature, and also a way to put lands back into our hand to play and draw more cards. Then we've got Kamal, Fist of Kroza. So 4 colors, 2 green, a legendary creature, Human Druid. Target land becomes a 1/1 creature until end of turn, it's still a land. And then also 2 colorless and 3 green, creatures you control get +3/+3 and gain trample until end of turn. So this is one of our big overrun effects. I absolutely love this guy. I run him in pretty much any token strategy that I build that has green in it. So he 100% works here. Not only being able to turn a bunch of your lands that you don't necessarily care if they get killed or not into creatures that can also potentially attack, he also just buffs everybody up to ridiculous levels. And then we've got a Rampaging Balos. I don't know if this deck would be complete without this card. So 4 colors, 2 green, Trample, 6/6 Beast. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you may create a 4/4 green beast creature token. So if you think about the strategy we're going for, that could be really, really powerful. You get a ton of tokens every turn. Then Royal Elemental, kind of the other side of that. So 3 colors, 3 blue, flying. Whenever land enters the battlefield under your control, you may gain control of target creature for as long as you control Royal Elemental. So once again, think of that with like the Sylvan Safekeeper, where you can just sacrifice the land to keep this guy around, give him Shroud, and then just start stealing other people's stuff. It could get really nasty really fast. Then another overrun effect, we've got Thunderfoot Balos, so 4 colors, 2 green, Trample, Lieutenant. As long as you control your commander, Thunderfoot Balos gets +2/+2, and other creatures you control get +2/+2 and have Trample. So Great way to buff all of our tiny tokens. And we've got an Ovenwald Hydra. Once again, I don't know how we couldn't include this guy in a deck like this. So 4 colors, 2 green, reach. Basically, whenever he enters the battlefield, you go and search your library for any land and put it into play, and then he gets power and toughness equal to the amount of lands you control. So, absolutely ridiculous. I mean, we can grab our Wasteland with this guy, or any of the other pieces that we're trying to like combo off with here. And then, of course, Avenger Zendikar. We all know what this card does. It's broken as heck, and it's been the bane of pretty much everybody that played against it ever since time began, really. So, really good card. It's amazing. Highly recommended. And then, of course, our big finisher, we've got Critterhoof Behemoth. So, 5 colors, 3 green, haste. When he enters the battlefield, he gets +X until end of turn, where X is the number of creatures you control, and then he gives that to every other creature you control as well. So, absolutely ridiculous. I mean, you have 10 tokens on the battlefield, you're essentially going to win this game if you play this card. Breaking into our artifacts here, we've got Elixir of Mortality. Like I said, there's a little bit of concern of drawing ourselves out, so having an effect like this is always great. I mean, this is the standard one. Pretty much every deck should run this, and it pretty much does, so. Then, of course, Soul Ring. You know, having this early is going to be great, especially the quicker we can get our commander out, the better. You know, the more cards we can draw and more life we can gain. Lightning Greaves to keep our commander safe, because most people are probably going to want to kill her, or him or her, as soon as they see them. Then we've got a Cloudstone Curio, so this obviously has strong synergy with our commander, you know, being able to bounce the land back and then play it again. Really powerful. Then Eldrazi Monument, another one of those type of like, you know, just buff your entire board up kind of effects. I really like this one because it gives everything indestructible. And with the amount of tokens that we're making, I don't really see a problem with the sacrifice trigger, so I think we'll be good with this one. Then we've got an Eternity Vessel, so I've never actually played with this card before. I thought it was banned for a million years until somebody pointed out to me that it wasn't. So it's a 6-colorless artifact that has landfall. Eternity Vessel enters the battlefield with X charge counters on it, where X is your life total. So say you get this out and you're lucky and you're at 40. Then with the landfall, whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you may have your life total become the number of charge counters on Eternity Vessel. So essentially it's a way to avoid being killed. I mean, if you think about it, like if you have a fetch land, you can go back to your starting life total pretty much whenever you want to. So that's really powerful, especially in a deck like this. Okay, breaking into our enchantments here, of course we got a Burgeoning. This card, you know, turn 1 would be really amazing, and then later on when we're drawing a ton of lands, we can just keep playing and keep drawing cards. And then Trade Routes, this is kind of like, it's become more popular with the Chaos and Tiro decks that have been rolling around. It's an oldie but a goodie, really. So it's a colorless and a blue. Has pay 1 colors, return target land you control to its owner's hand, so kind of an interesting ability. And then we've got pay 1 colors, discard a land card, draw a card. So kind of an interesting cycle. It's actually pretty powerful. I've played it in quite a few Chaos and Tiro decks, and it's actually worked out really well, so I think it'll work great here too. Then, of course, like I talked about, we have Doubling Season. With the amount of tokens that we're playing, this card just makes sense. Plus, we have quite a few Planeswalkers in the deck, so this actually definitely makes sense that way too. Then Zendikar's Royal. Speaking of token payoff, we've got 3 colors, 2 green. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, put a 2/2 green elemental creature token onto the battlefield. So, exactly what we want to be doing. And we've got a Primeval Bounty, which is essentially the card that we just talked about's bigger brother. So 5 colors and a green. Whenever you cast a creature spell, put a 3/3 green beast creature token on the battlefield. So any one of our creatures triggers that. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, put 3+1/+1 counters on target creature you control. So a way to buff our team, really. And then whenever land enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 3 life. So all amazing abilities, all what we want to do. Amazing. Then we've got a Zendikar Resurgent, so even though we're going to be playing so many lands and have ridiculous amounts of mana, what's the harm in doubling that? And plus, it gives us the benefit of whenever you cast a creature spell, draw a card. So not only are we triggering off our land drops, but we're also triggering off our creature casts, and it just becomes a mess. Getting into our Planeswalkers here, we've got Garruk Wildspeaker, so 2 colors, 2 green. I think we've all played with this card. You know, +1 untap 2 target lands. So just a way to counter ramp ourselves up. -1, put a 3/3 green beast creature token on the battlefield, so token strategy. And then of course -4 is a overrun ability, so +3/+3 and all your creatures gain trample until end of turn, so exactly what we want to be doing. Then we've got a Nissa Vital Force, 3 colors, 2 green. And this is essentially a second of our commander in a lot of ways, so, I mean, a lot of people just shoot for the ultimate on this card, which totally makes sense. +1 is untap target land you control until your next turn. It becomes a 5/5 elemental creature token with haste. It's still land, so a way to kind of like Defender. Then -3, return target permanent card from your graveyard to your hand, which could be really important depending on what's going on. Then we've got -6, you get an emblem with whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you may draw a card. So essentially half of what our commander does. So just a way to have a backup, really. Then we've got a crop rotation, so instant speed spell, so 1 green. As additional cost to cast this, you sacrifice the land, then you search your library for a land card and put it on the battlefield, then shuffle your library. So once again, this is any land, so the lands that we're looking to really synergize with our commander can be found with this card. Plus, once again, we don't really care about throwing a land in the bin. There's a few ways to get it back, really. Then, of course, a little bit of counterspell, so Swan Song has always been one that I think is important, especially in decks that aren't looking to be very control-y. I think this is a great card because it's like a gotcha one. You know, you leave up that 1 blue and they're thinking, oh, they can't do anything, and then you counter, like, Omniscience with this, and yeah, you got them. Then Constant Miss, great way to work with our synergy here, so a colorless and a green, buy back, sacrifice a land, creatures deal no combat damage this turn, so just a fog that just keeps fogging. Then what blue running deck would not be complete with a Cyclonic Rift? I mean, this is probably one of the best board wipes ever printed. I absolutely love it, and I have to include it in pretty much everything. I've got a Heroic Intervention. We are playing tokens once again, so having things like this that protect our tokens, at least for a turn, is really important. Arachnogenesis, another fog that gets us a bunch of tokens, so it's essentially doing everything we want it to do. Perfect. Then we've got a Beast Within, so destroying permanents of any type is really important sometimes. I mean, especially if like certain things are holding us down, you know, like a Maze of Ith or something like that. So having a card like this in our pocket is always wanted. We've got a Harrow, so just an instant speed way to get lands. As we talked about with like Eternity Vessel, I mean, essentially if you have this card in hand and that thing on the battlefield, you know, if somebody tries to kill you, you can essentially reset your life total. Then Crozen Grip, of course, one of the uncounterable split-second, destroy target artifact or enchantment cards. I mean, this is a green staple for a reason. It's absolutely amazing. Highly recommended. Void Slime. I know a lot of people will probably argue with me, why is this card in here? I mean, there's Disallow, which is probably better and easier to cast in some ways. I don't know. I like Void Slime. It's still cool to me, even though it does the same thing. Then getting into our sorceries here, we've got a Farseek. So a colorless and a green. Search your library for a plains, island, swamp, or a mountain. So essentially we're going to find one of our dual lands most likely. Cultivate, you know, way to find 2 lands. Explosive Vegetation, once again a way to find 2 lands and put them into play. Escape Shift, this is a ridiculously expensive card. I think I may have 1 copy at this point. You know, there's a Modern deck that rolls around, and even a Legacy deck I think that rolls around every once in a while that includes this card, so it's brought the price up pretty high. It really just needs a reprint, to be honest. They need to think about reprinting this one soon. So 2 colorless and 2 green, sacrifice any number of lands, search your library for that many land cards, put them into play tapped, then shuffle your library. So if you think about that with our commander, we could sacrifice essentially every basic land that we have and go search for every non-basic land that we don't have in play and put them into play. And that's just ridiculous, drawing cards and gaining life while we do that. So yeah, busted. Then Urban Evolution, one of my favorite cards, so 3 colors, a green and a blue. Draw 3 cards, you can play an additional land this turn, so essentially doing everything we want to do once again. This is Renewal, so 5 colors and a green. Search your library for up to 3 basic land cards, put them on the battlefield tapped, then shuffle your library, you gain 7 life. Then Seasons Past, one of my favorite recursion spells, so 4 colors, 2 green. Return any number of cards with different cover and mana costs from your graveyard to your hand. Put Seasons Past on the bottom of your library. So, really powerful recursion effect. I mean, I've gotten back up to 9 cards with this, you know, spell. Of course, that's not going to happen in this deck, but you know, we can probably reliably depend on getting at least 5 or 4 cards every time. Then we've got Boundless Realms, so 6 colors and a green. Search your library for up to X basic land cards where X is the number of lands you control and put them on the battlefield tapped, then shuffle your library. So really powerful ramp spell. Okay, and then we'll break into the last part of the deck. That's the lands. So there's actually some pretty important lands that we're running here. First up is Alchemist Refuge. So tap for Kellis or pay a green and a blue. You may cast non-land cards this turn as though they had flash. So just an interesting card. I actually included it in pretty much every deck that can run it. It's a great include in my opinion. You know, just giving things flash and surprising people is always really effective. Then I've got a Botanical Sanctum, so just a fast land. Taps for both our colors. Breeding Pool, of course. Draw Near Temple, something that we can play from our graveyard. So if we have the Sylvan Safekeeper, once again we can sacrifice this and just keep recurring it. So that could be a pretty powerful synergy. Flooded Grove. Flooded Strand, one of our mini fetch lands. Ghost Town. Now this is interesting. I hadn't found this, or I've never seen this card before, so you can tap it and add colors to your mana pool, or you can pay 0, return Ghost Town to its owner's hand, use this ability only during another player's turn. So, actually pretty powerful for what we're trying to do. Hinterland Harbor. Homeward Path, of course. I've got a Misty Rainforest. Myriad Landscape, another kind of like pseudo fetch land where you can sacrifice it and get 2 basic lands, put them into play, so 2 triggers on our commander. Then I've got Arboro, Palace in the Clouds. Now this is an old favorite of mine, so kind of the same effect of the Ghost Town, but this one actually taps for a blue, which is actually a little bit more powerful. Then I've got a Polluted Delta, a Reliquary Tower. Then of course a Wasteland. This is probably one of our biggest synergies, so of course with Ramatop Excavator you just keep recurring this card and just destroy everybody's lands. So really powerful, really kind of mean too, but you know, what can you do? Then I've got a Windswept Heath, a Wooded Foothills, sorry. And then I think we have 11 forests and 7 islands. With that is the deck. I hope you guys have enjoyed. I know that it is basically Commander Christmas right now, and we are just seeing pretty much every day another new crazy commander that we want to build around. I know as soon as I saw this card I was just like, oh my gosh, I gotta brew something up really quick. So of course there are things that you know you may want to include, so include those in the comments. I know that Crucible Worlds is a huge one. I kept that one out just because I don't know, the Crucible Worlds, having like 2 ways, a Ramatop Excavator and a Crucible Worlds with Wasteland, that just seems a little bit too strong to me, but that's just the way I like to play. I like to, you know, have a challenge most of the time. So anyway, I hope you guys have enjoyed once again, and we will see you for the next deck tech.